What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. CFC Deep here with yet another video. This one is reviewing Chelsea's 1-1 draw against Crystal Palace in match week 3 of the Premier League. And guys, all the things that we saw against Wolves, we saw a little bit, but we saw a lot of the older Chelsea, right? It was a lack of leadership. It was a lack of discipline. It was poor passing. It was misplaced just decision making, right? As the game got carried on, Chelsea got more and more sloppy. And that was the telltale sign, right, of the match. You know, fair play to Palace for equalizing. It was a very good goal from Eze, but it was the mental mistake after the set piece, right? We don't clear the ball deep. We just kind of struggle, and now everyone is out of position, wondering who's marking who, and it leads to just, frankly, a wide open shot at the top of the box that Eze puts in. Sanchez probably could have had better positioning, but to be honest, it was a good goal. But the problem is the discipline and the mistakes, right? As the game carried on, Chelsea got very, very uncomfortable when it came to the build-up, when it came to operating in their own final third. The chance creation was just not at the level that it needed to be, and the clinicalness did not cover up for that lack of chance creation. A couple times in the second half there, Nicholas Jackson had a couple runs in on goal, did not get an opportunity to finish those. There was a couple of other set pieces that did not go as planned, did not score goals off of. So basically for me, guys, it's the details. It's the fine. If you're not going to be as clinical as you were against Wolves, you have to up your chance creation. So how do you do that? It's by creating clean passes. It's by operating in a smart and intelligent way and just trying to push the ball into right positions and get them to your playmakers. Too often we saw, and especially in the last 15 minutes of the match, we saw a really, really poor a bit of playmaking and just decision making. There were several chances that could have been executed, but just dispossession. Palace were frustrating Chelsea on both wings, and it was a little bit of kind of what we saw in the past rather than what we saw against Wolves. So now Chelsea go into the international break. There are 2 weeks before we have our next match. So there is time to kind of think about these. I know a number of players will go on international duty, but it's time for the technical staff to just preach to the guys that are staying, and when the rest of the team gets back, you need to be clean. You need to be technically secure. You need to make sure that your passes are being completed. Because if you're not finishing the big chances, which a goalkeeper can stand on his head, no question, but it seems like this is a bit more of a categorical just lack of finishing, right? You know, the Wolves game was great, but overall, it was not good enough to get a result today. In the first half, Chelsea did look a little bit better. They did look like the Wolves' performance a bit, fluid in the build-up. Enzo Maresca decided to drop Cole Palmer into the midfield, and several times he caught the ball on the half turn, shielding the marking midfielder and moving the ball forward. Palace at this point in the second half, and what really was the change of the game, was them not allowing Palmer to catch the ball on the half turn, keeping everything in front of them, keeping Palmer in front of them, and just sort of saying, we're not letting you gut us from the middle. You're going to have to get it in through the outside. And Chelsea tried to get it in through the outside, but they didn't really have the crossing. They didn't really have the finishing to get it done, which was the trouble in the game for me. I think as you look at this squad and you look at how the team is shaping up and how you look at Maresca's tactics are being implemented, you are seeing a bit of progression overall. So I'm not going to say it's all negative because we drew, right? We did have a good defensive performance otherwise, other than that, as a goal. So I thought the center backs looked very good. Sanchez, I don't really like him, to be honest. I don't think he's good enough, but he was fine otherwise, I suppose. The midfield, I thought Caicedo had a very good game. I thought his ability to recover and track back and just get into good situations was positive. I thought Enzo had a very good game. In the second half, when Malo Gusto came off with a little hamstring injury, Enzo had to drop back into that, kind of fill that center back role that Caicedo was doing so they could bring on a Felix and Nkunku, a Mudryk and whatnot. And that kind of took him a little bit out of where you wanted him to be. Also, I really do think that, when you have Wesley Fofana at that right center back position, I do have a bit of a worry in that sense because he does not have the crossing ability that you would need in one of these late game scenarios. So, like, if you have Reece James out there and he's getting further advanced, now you have a guy that can cross the ball into the box a little bit more. You have a guy that can kind of bail you out in last-second opportunities. So, overall, guys, it wasn't good enough, but I don't think I'm going to dwell on it too much. It's just those the details that need to be ironed out. And now, with all that being said, Chelsea really need to focus on that because there's young players, there's impressionable players, there's players that need to get better in those moments. So I would hope that Maresca would really start to develop some of those more detail. We need to be perfect. We need to be perfect because I think perfection is the only way, unless all of a sudden we become as clinical as we were on Wolves throughout the whole season, we're going to have a problem. So a lot there, right? A lot there. But overall, there was some bright spots. That one moment from Eze was great, but just not enough to get us over the line. So I want to follow up and just go over that transfer window, right? Go over what we've kind of had seen happen over the last 48 hours. Talk about some of the players that came in, some of the players that did not go out, some of the players that did not come in. Jadon Sancho has been announced to Chelsea. He has arrived, number 19. He comes in on a loan with obligation to buy, assuming that Chelsea finish higher than 14th in the Premier League table. So more than likely, he will be staying for good. I love Sancho. I think he's going to be a great opportunity. It's a very much a buy low, potentially get great return spot for Sancho. Talented player. Was sort of caught in the dysfunction of Manchester United. But if you look at his time at Dortmund, and even when he went back to Dortmund last season, he definitely had moments of quality. So another wing option for Chelsea to utilize, which I like. Some outgoings. Trevor Chalobah moved on, which was good to see him get going because you don't want that disarray in the squad. Raheem Sterling moves to Arsenal. Fine with me. It's a season-long loan, no option, no obligation. He'll be back, but good to get him out while you can kind of figure out a long-term suitor for him potentially. Carney Chukwuemeka stays. Now, there is some days in the window left open in Portugal and Turkey and Netherlands, so there could potentially be some moves for some more fringe players like a David Washington and others in that sense, but I don't expect too much further movement in terms of outgoings other than some of those fringe players. But, the big story is Victor Osimhen not coming in. Chelsea, probably look at this game and say maybe we should have gotten a more clinical number 9. Now, despite Jackson did score, that was a good goal. Assist from Palmer, excellent. But you look at some of those fast break chances at the end of the game and you start to wonder if Victor Osimhen is a guy that maybe finishes some of those. That's something that Jackson just needs to work on. Those fast break opportunities where it's him and the goalie, and he just doesn't seem to have that knack to just be clinical and ruthless in those situations. And fair play to the Palace goalkeeper. He made some good saves. But that's where Victor Osimhen comes in and transforms your lineup because Chelsea truly could have won this game if they would have finished some of those chances. But I think Osimhen is something that maybe we will revisit in January. It doesn't appear that he's going to be going into the Napoli squad at this point. So maybe that's something that Chelsea look at January and say, okay, maybe this is a situation where we can improve our squad. The last thing I'll say on Osimhen is, Chelsea had talked about all summer and they had briefed that this is their top target for the window, right? This is their top target and they want to get him. But you come in and you offer 4 million euros in salary with 4 million in bonuses. That's just not going to get it done. So you leave big expectations for big disappointments, and that was my biggest issue is that you had talked about it. You had almost said, we're going to get a striker this window, and you don't. So that's my trouble with it. Do they revisit it in January? Potentially. But as of right now, the striker is still a main question. Despite Jackson scoring, we need somebody ruthless in those last minutes to possibly get us 3 points today. So, as always, guys, I want to thank you for viewing into the channel. As always, go ahead and like and subscribe and comment. Let me know what you think about this match. Big shout out to our match sponsor, Cy Phillips Talks Chelsea. Simon has done an amazing job building out his community to give content for every single Chelsea fan, whether you like videos, written, podcasts. He has it all. Go to the link in the description. Subscribe to that right now. Follow me on Twitter at CFCDP1. got 2 weeks until the next match. There's going to be a lot to talk about. So you can always find that stuff right here. We will see you at the next one. Peace.